Collision detection isn't as scary as it might sound. Unreal Studio makes it super easy to add collision to your scenes. But before we get into how to do that, we first need to ask ourselves whether we need it and why. And it really all comes down to the type of walkthrough you'll be creating. Is it going to be a controlled walkthrough in which the viewer simply watches a sequence of animated cameras? If so, you probably don't need collision detection, since the viewer won't be able to move. If, however, you want the viewer to be able to move freely around the scene, you'll need collision in order to keep them within the bounds of your creation. Collision will also help avoid the viewer being able to look through geometry into places you don't want them to see. Here's a quick example of our walkthrough. We'll go ahead and run this. And as I move around, you're going to be able to see that I can move through all of these objects and see into places where I shouldn't. I can also leave the scene through the wall. So this is obviously undesirable, and we're going to add collision detection to fix it. There are two basic ways to add collision to your scene. You can create it yourself in the 3D tool, in this case 3ds Max, or you can let Unreal create it. Let's look at both. Now I've got a collision box here, box 001. First thing you need to take note is that it's completely convex. There's nothing concave to it. Unreal expects if you're bringing in a single mesh object like this for collision that it needs to be convex. You can use multiple different meshes to turn it into basically a concave shape, but in this case we're going to go really simple and just use a single object and make sure it's convex. However, we do need to name it so that it matches the name of our couch. So we've got this couch here, SM Couch 002. So we're going to name our collision box here the same way. So SM Couch 002. The other thing we need to do is add a prefix to it. Now there are several different prefixes you can use, and each of them basically represents a different type of collision, but 9 times out of 10 when you're doing architectural stuff, all you really need to do is add UCX as your prefix. Alright, and now we can go ahead and export both the couch and our collision box using FBX export. You could also use Datasmith. Okay, all we really need to do here is re-import the couch because it's already here. Alright, and then we'll open the couch up in the static mesh editor. Alright, and then when we click on collision here, we'll choose simple collision and we can see our collision box. We can also enable complex collision, and this is collision that uses every face of the object. This is very expensive and generally not recommended. So we'll go ahead and turn that off. Now the other option for adding collision would be to use Unreal. So let's go ahead and remove this collision. And then we can add new collision without having to do any of that stuff in 3ds Max, just by going to the collision menu here. And we have several options. So we could add sphere collision. Go ahead and remove that. And then likewise, we've got capsule collision, box collision. Box is pretty good for this object. You basically want to pick the collision that fits your shape. We also have some more detailed collision. So we can go to these 10 DOP, X, Y, and Z, 18 DOP, and 26 DOP, and just try some of these out and see we get a little more detailed collision box there. Let's add the 26. So see that 26 there is even more detailed. Let's go ahead and remove all of these. Alright, so we're going to go really simple here and we're just going to add basic box collision. Now, in the case of the wall here, this wall completely encloses the scene, and it's a concave shape because of that. So let's go ahead and open the wall up and have a look at what we can do with a concave shape. Obviously, we could just come in here and add a basic box for the shape, but that makes the entire area basically collidable. You can't be inside of it. So that's not what we want. So we'll remove that. Instead, we can go under collision and choose auto convex collision. Now this will have Unreal automatically create convex collision for us based on this shape. We've got hole count, max hole verts, and hole precision. I'm just going to leave this as the default value, but using these values here, you can increase them or decrease them to increase or decrease the accuracy of the collision box. Let's see what we get when we do default. Alright, so that's what we got from the default settings. It looks good enough to me. I know it's going to keep me inside of the level when I'm looking at it and walking around. So let's go ahead and just save that. So our walls have collision. I know my floor already has collision, and we've added some collision to the couch here. Let's go ahead and give it a test, and we can see how it's working out. If I walk over to the wall here, I can't go any further. So now I can't get outside of the level. And then also, if I walk over to the couch, you can see here, I'm going down a little bit there, but I can't get through it. So there we go. So that's all there is to adding collision. So adding collision can really help make your scenes feel substantial to the viewer. And it provides a realistic feedback as they move around the scene. You'll have to work with an Unreal template such as the first-person template, which is what I'm using here, or the VR template if you're doing virtual reality, in order for it to work. But Epic has done a great job making it super easy to set up. So next, we'll dive into material support.